Hi everyone, it's Natalie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the novellas that I've read recently. At least at the time of filming this video, they are recent reads because they're the novellas I read at the end of April and throughout May. But who knows when this video is going up, so I leave that to the discretion of future me whether this will continue to be called recent reads. But anyway, let's get into them. The first novella I'm going to be talking about is Love Scammed by Rilsey Adams. In this novella, we follow essentially these two characters who get set up on a blind date, but more like a blind vacation. And that is because their friends are really trying to set them up together, but because they can't convince, especially the woman, to meet with the man, they decide to send them both on a vacation. And so they end up meeting at the airport and all of that because the vacation was planned for them to meet at it. So I rated this novella 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. I picked it up because I wanted a smutty read, a short smutty read, and that definitely scratched that itch at the time. So this was a pretty easy read, nice to get through. It was my first Rilsey Adams, and I could definitely see why Joe Hatties really loves Rilsey Adams because it was just a fun time. Like, was the romance a bit rushed? Sure, it was. It could have taken a little bit more of its time, but overall, I enjoyed the chemistry between the characters. I liked the way the characters both thirsted for each other, but also genuinely enjoyed each other's company. So that was a lot of fun. I liked how they complemented one another. And so yeah, it was just a good time. It was just a good time. The next novella I'm going to be talking about, it's more of a short story than a novella, but it's also by Rilsey Adams, and that is 8. So if I'm not mistaken, in this novella, we follow this woman who originally had planned, I think, like a nice dinner with her friends that would be cooked by a professional chef. But her friends couldn't go, so she ends up just spending this evening with this private chef essentially that she hired for the evening. And so it's just about the two of them getting it on, honestly. So yeah, I rated this 4 stars. I thought it was perfectly written because it's so short. I think it's only 50 pages. It really is about these two characters meeting and getting it on. So it was just, the steaminess was really, really good. The smut was excellent. So like, I have no complaints. I thought the characters had great chemistry and the smut was great. So honestly, what else is there to say? It was just good. I had a good time and I've just been vibing with Rilsey Adams. The next novella I'm going to talk about is also by Rilsey Adams. And I'm going to be talking about yet another one after this one because they're related. And so the one I'm going to be talking about now is Go Deep, which is about this writer. She writes romance, but she's kind of in a writing rut. She's kind of not really writer's block, but as a romance writer, her romances just aren't hitting the mark. She published one that got extremely negative reviews, and so she's like, I need to do something to figure out how to spice up my stories again. And so she decides that she will have sex with her best friend. It's her childhood best friend. They have always just been best friends. And so she says, well, we could test this out just to see if my ideas get flowing. And so it's about this best friends to friends with benefits to lovers romance. So I rated this novella 4 stars. Overall, I really, really enjoyed it. I think the most frustrating element was that because these two characters were best friends, they were really being extremely obtuse about their relationship. Like, clearly once they started having sex, there was a lot of chemistry between them and their relationship just deepened, and both of them could not figure out a way to communicate with each other like adults their feelings. And so they kept saying things or kept saying half things that made the other person think something that was incorrect. And so that was just one of the frustrating bits in this novella. But in general, I had a good time with it. Again, I thought the chemistry between the characters was there and it was good. And I loved the fact that a lot of it was actually just chilling together, like just hanging out, having a good time. And it was just like an extension of their friendship. And I also enjoyed the friendships in the book. The friendships that these characters had were also kind of nice. They weren't delved into like super deeply, but it still added a little something to the book that actually left me like, ooh, I want to know more about these side characters. I don't know if she really has, if Rosie Adams has planned to write more on those side characters. She might, and I don't even know, maybe she has already and I just don't know it. But I would be intrigued to read those if she wrote them. And then the last novella by Rosie Adams I'm going to be talking about is Deeper, and this is more again of a short story. It's essentially the epilogue or an extended epilogue for Go Deep. So it's basically like spoilers, like the whole summary is spoilers. I mean, it shouldn't if you're familiar with romance, but just in case, just avoid this review in general. But it's basically about the wedding day of the two characters in Go Deep. So it's just literally the whole premise is just their wedding day, them getting ready for, I think it's actually a couple of days leading up to the wedding day. Regardless, it's about them getting ready and just the whole shebang. And I rated it 4 stars. It was just fun. The smut scenes were good. And it was just a good time. It had a lot of very cutesy scenes that I enjoyed. So I would recommend Rosie Adams, period. Everything I have read so far has been a good time. So I look forward to reading more of her works. And in a book haul, I did get a few more Rosie Adams, so I am looking forward to picking those up. The next book I'm going to be talking about is Drag Me Up by R.M. Virtues. This is a Hades and Persephone retelling. It's in this world where, I don't know, it's like divided. It's kind of like New York, so it's like divided into different areas and whatnot. And certain gods have dominion over specific regions. And it's basically about Persephone is a tightrope, aerial dancer, performer, whatever. And so she meets Hades because she goes to perform at one of the businesses that Hades owns. And so it's obviously the romance between the two of them. I rated this 3 stars. It was fine. Overall, the strongest part was actually the smut. There was incredible smut scenes in here. The threesome in here was top-notch shit. Like, it was really good. It was really good. If there had been more of that shit, I might have actually enjoyed this even more and would have given it like 4 stars or something. But since there wasn't more of that, I didn't. And it's because the world building in this was clunky. Like, I'm barely able to describe it to you because I basically did not understand this world, did not understand how it worked. And it felt like it was info dumping very early on in a way that was just incomprehensible to me. And so I just couldn't get into it. And I was just reading and being confused about the dynamics of this world. And then on top of that, I felt like things were a bit over-explained because we had a lot of Greek gods being name dropped when they really didn't need to be. A lot of characters were mentioned that ended up being irrelevant to the plot. And like, I know that this is the first book in a series, but even as the first book in a series, I'm like, you didn't have to name drop almost every single god you could think of at the moment. You could just mention the truly relevant ones. So that was kind of the thing that made this difficult to get through. So like, even though it was still overall enjoyable, it wasn't my favorite, and I didn't like the world because I couldn't understand it. So if you're okay with just reading it for the good smut scenes, like, go ahead. You might understand the world better than I did. So I would still recommend it. I just wish it hadn't been as confusing and thus tedious to get through at times. The last novella I'm going to be talking about is His Human Nanny by Michelle Mills. This is a sci-fi romance where our protagonist works as like those caretakers of elderly people. That's like her job, but she gets hired to be a nanny because her contract is almost up and someone in a rush hires her, and so she gets whisked off to be a nanny, and she works for like different alien species, and the particular alien species she goes to be the nanny for, one of those individuals, is actually a species that looks like the devil. So basically red skin, black horns, talons, big, muscly, a tail, that kind of shit. And so the story is about her falling in love with the man who hires her, who is the father of the twins she has to take care of. I rated this 3 stars because overall there were some strengths, but there were also some weaknesses. The major strength is that I tend to enjoy stories where children are involved, which I always say that it's ironic because I don't want children, but I like reading stories where there's one character, mostly reading romance stories, where there's one parent who has their children and there's scenes where the love interest has to interact in some way with the children. So in this case, the protagonist doesn't have children, it's the love interest who has children, but because she's the nanny, she has to spend a lot of time with his kids. And so I enjoyed the family dynamics. Like, really, it was wholesome seeing her figure out how to take care of babies of a different species, seeing her bond with the father. It was great. And in general, there was chemistry between her and the father of the kids. I definitely genuinely bought the relationship between the two of them. One of the issues I had, which was more of a minor issue, is that because the chemistry between the protagonist and the love interest was so strong, I was expecting more from the smut, and it was just meh. It was just fine. Like, it just got the job done, but it could have been so much better. And with some of the things the characters were saying to each other, I thought it was going to go in one direction, but it ended up not. And so I was just lukewarm about it, you know? The other thing is that there was also a lot of repetition, like a lot of phrases, sentences, etc. were repeated so much. Like, the author needed to chill with repeating these phrases and sentences. I'm like, I got it the first time. I got it the second time too. The second time was fine. But again and again and again, I was like, please, no, stop, stop, just stop. So that was one of the things. The last thing I wasn't the hugest fan of is that the love interest was sexually assaulted. He was raped by a partner, which is how he ended up having his twins. And literally it takes until the end of the novel for that to be called that, for it to be called by its name. Like, when it's first brought up the first few times, it's just like, oh yeah, I was kind of drunk, or I was kind of something when it happened. And I think it was even mentioned that he was like actually drugged from the very beginning. It's mentioned, but they kind of just treat it like it's fine. And then it's at the end of the novel that they're like actually formally accusing that woman of sexually assaulting him. And I'm like, this should have been the statement from statement numero uno, okay? I'm like, that should have been said the very first time, you know? And so that was just kind of annoying, especially because I wasn't confident that they were going to call it by name. So I was glad that they did, but it was frustrating that I had to be like, are they gonna call it, or are they just gonna keep pretending like it was fine? So at least they did. And overall, again, what I really enjoyed about the book was the character dynamics, the characters' interactions with one another, with other side characters. All of that was a lot of fun. So I would still actually recommend this. It was a good time. It was a decent time. And if you're into those family dynamics, then I would highly recommend it, because the family dynamics are very, very, very good, very cute, and the chemistry between the characters is great. So yeah, that's it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you would like to follow me on any of my social media, I will have the links to that down below in the description. But for now, see you next time.